So today, I'll probably share the names from this one. Shems Friedlander. But the Whirling Dervishes, quotes and notes from September 2005. So I made a study of the book. I don't think that I'm allowed to share so many quotes at once. So maybe over time, or maybe not. Maybe I'll just share the notes section. But see, it's a very interesting book, and whether one's into Sufism or not, it's well worth the read. But from chapter 1, Neutralizing the Earth's Glue, page 14, I say that one sees in this passage the reason behind the dull woolen garments worn by the Sufis. The reason, of course, being to remind one to not be attached to the world. Our clothes often give us identities like a nation, race, tribe, wealth, creed, etc. Page 15. In Egyptian hieroglyphics, Syefi is the 11th night of the moon. Zarathustra taught a meditation system based on 11 points of the body that developed into the tarot system. Sufism has a lot of roots in Zarathustrianism and other non-Islamic religions. And by non-Islamic, I mean what has changed from the message of the prophets. I'm not criticizing Zarathustra or anything like that. The other points, hands especially, were divided into 11 points, as one familiar with Muhammad's systems of counting praises knows. Page 18. It's the body is like this, and like this, and the body's the earth, and the mountains, etc., etc. A very good poem, I thought. These, of course, are not all the comparisons that can be made. There is no mention of the fluids in the body other than the comparison of dust and mud. My 17th Enochianathra vision, if one looks at what was said, the fluids and the gases were part of the weighing on the scales. Page 19. One sees that the magic carpet made remembering God and used in Salah, the contact prayers. It is not magical as far as the typical idea of talismans and such. And, well, I would say talismanic, but not amulet, not a charm. It's not believed it has power in itself. It is a manifestation of religion, hence its talismanic quality. As an adept of the Salah, or other worship of the One, you do on or with the carpet, you truly fly spiritually. So again, if you don't have the experience, I was just making sure that was still recording. Page 20. In 15:9, we are told, of Al-Quran, we are told, surely Allah sent down the dhikr and will protect it, the remembrance. Which, on one hand, is the remembrance that's in Quran and the remembrance that Quran refers to somehow. This verse was revealed as a reference to worrying over Al-Quran being thought lost to the world like revelations to previous prophets. This verse is also thought to refer to the acts of worship that Muhammad taught. There were hundreds or thousands of acts taught to the people. The base of this, Al-Quran, has seen no change from the first writings during Muhammad's time to the pages of Al-Quran passed out today. The legend sayings, hadith, were for the most part written down a minimum of 200 years after his death, and obviously contain various Arab legends, and deliberate fabrication to support judgments and habits that go against logic, science, history, and other known factual things, such as Al-Quran. I'm not saying that's it's a minority. People focus on the 5 things in Ibn Kathir that are obviously, you know, that aren't true, that he probably made up himself, and they say, it's a big book, thousands of pages, you know. But anyways, so that's a very good commentary. If after out of a couple thousand pages or something, we're looking at something that only has 5 errors that your typical elite scientist or something is going to find. I think there's more than that, but it's way down there. Every 50 pages or something, there's an error. So it's like, I wish I could do that well. If one pays attention, many of the legends that don't even refer to something that came to Muhammad. They're about the companions, generations after, the imams, Sufi masters. The majority of the hadith are actually that. Or they're not saying that these are the words of the prophets or the teachings of the prophets themselves directly. Many gems remain acts of worship, commentary, lectures, comparable to Sunday school lessons, and some other good matters. Outside of the acts of worship, there is a difference of opinion, and it is your choice alone what you wish to follow of hadith. I mean, if you believe that this is what God inspired to Muhammad, you don't really have a choice now, do you? I mean, how you personally interpret that, that's, as long as you're being authentic about that, that's, but, there are other criteria, like what is Quran's final word, and some other sayings may abrogate some of those sayings, and there may be detail to some of these things that you don't realize. Oh, the apostate that was killed 2 people and robbed the state. Oh, these apostates weren't killed for apostasy. The apostates killed in the middle of a battlefield because they were fighting. Obviously, it wasn't apostasy, but you can take a couple phrases and make assumptions like that. Just like you can make assumptions about the Battle of Khaybar and certain foods being forbidden to even a greater extent than the 5 ones that we find in Quran. Muhammad tended to follow Arab custom, food, dress, and some other matters and laws, unless it was worship or what was revealed to be unnecessary or even a sin. For example, on Hajj and in Mecca, the burqa is a sin, and discouraged is a sign of arrogance, otherwise, except in a storm or something. And women aren't allowed to cover their face when giving testimony. You got to show your face when giving a testimony, or testimony doesn't count. That's the real thing about, women's testimony doesn't count. Yeah, if they refuse to show their face, because there's going to be doubt to who they are. You got to show who you are if you're willing to testify. Also, the rules were eased in on the people at first. For a decade, the only rule was monotheism, and then others were added on. In Muslim Volume 1, it says, Muhammad said, some of my sayings were undone by later sayings, and a lot of the rest was changed by the revelations of Al-Quran. We are told many ways of doing certain good and worshipful acts. Some think that one can follow the last legend they find. The truth is, there are so many options of what we can do. So Islam's not meant to be a narrow religion. And the 6th ride of Quran is the scholarship of Al-Quran is now mostly in English, and the findings and interpretations keep growing. So, the understanding, right? I hope you will add to them. Now, the experience, that's the stereotype of Sufism, although most of it doesn't exist in Sufism, as far as the Islamic world. The experience, we have a right to be willing to and try to experience Quran. Page 21. This poem summarized is, there is a sound and light that is not within or without. It is not of this world and matter. It is the place of all miracles. It is the place we can never describe. It is the place where all blasphemers would throw off their shirking from truth. We see that the bejesus, in Jesus, can be scared out of a Christian, and there is no atheist in a foxhole. We all know deep down how limitless is the one who created us is. I don't think there was any editing of this, so I'm sorry. This is of the pure monotheism seems to be something we are born with, and according to the studies that have been done. My theory is that this never goes away deep down, even though most become polytheist or put other limits on Allah. All the major prophets said this pure monotheism gets one out of hell fire eventually. So it seems, for these reasons, none will be in hell forever, which still is an unimaginably long time for many. A Sufi is a mystic. This is particularly true with the Mid-Eastern mystics. The Sufi is the magus, magi, master, adept, religious in this case. The modern Sufi follows in some part the teachings of Prophet Muhammad, as any familiar with the circles knows. The top Sufis included prophets and messengers of God and many very pious individuals. So that's what's represented by the term Sufi to your typical Sufi. Sufism doesn't claim to be the only path to God. Unlike mistranslations of some of what Moses, Jesus, and Muhammad said, would lead you to believe about there only being one path, our Creator, that there's only one path to our Creator, not these different ones. All religions hold a portion of the Islamic values, especially those that stems from Islam in this age. It's year 1439. Remember, Islam is only the new name for the most ancient path called monotheism. I gave my father a bumper sticker that says, we walk in the ways of the ancient ones, and that's what I meant by that. Page 22. Okay, the general quotes section and trying to interpret. It has some interesting stuff, I guess. The only thing in Islam all agree on is Al-Quran, and to a lesser extent, the Sunnah, traditions. All the major things are agreed on. Everybody can go to Hajj together and, pilgrimage, charity. Well, there's some differences between schools of thought. The ritual prayers, everybody can say together. Fasting, everybody knows what the fasting is. And traditions pertaining to regarded and encouraged acts, to required and encouraged acts of worship. I jumped the gun in commenting. Al-Quran is in 114 suwar and 30 ajiza, divisions for reading it in one lunar month. Each juz is divided into 8 sections, so the Taraweeh prayers wouldn't be in too long of sections for the congregation, or so we know that it would be accomplished. The 9th surah is generally not considered to start with the verse that all other surahs start with. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Because it didn't include that. There are some sects that do include that. The Qadianis. As a Muslim, one is not required to be a Sufi, although generally it's best to have some of these aspects of intense concentration, awareness, euphoria, and such as part of your worship. the Prophet Muhammad avoided teaching the deeper meditation methods to the whole of his people. The reason should be obvious when one realizes that different things work for different people. So, what was obliged and what was best for one person or another, that was passed on. It wasn't a secret. But anyways, page 23. A temple of God is the house of worship. We should keep our bodies as a house of worship. The cleaning of this ark is referred to in the hadith as the chiseling of the heart. The hieroglyphic name Daweh, the two lands, Da'at, black land, and Qthmat, red land, is known as Marps in Torah, an ancient Egyptian most. There are two sites this is said to be. Horeb Hator, the mountain of Hator, the golden calf was a Hator statue, which the evidence seems to point out as most likely. The other exodus is the Aparu. The other exodus is of the Aparu, nomads, Bedouins, nationless people without their own language, ordered by Ahmoses II. Seems to be most likely to account for the site Jebel al-Az, Mountain of the Mighty. It is also possible that both sites Musa went to, as only one exodus was admitted to in the hieroglyphs. Also a possibility is that the Ahmoses II covered up what happened to be his doing. No other account near the time mentioned it. Mosque is the Latin word for the house of worship. In Arabic is known as masjid. Masajid in the plural. Place of prostration. Keeping shoes out of the masajid is not only to keep them cleaner, as that usually keeps them a lot cleaner, it is, as other things kept out of the masjid, a reminder that the place of worship to get away from certain aspects of this world. Centering on the world and ourselves too much is to separate us further from the Creator. This is the extreme known as annihilation of the ego, which is important in Oriental mythology. One has no need to go this far, though. The emptying of delusions, lies, and wrongs is the goal meant here. We must also not focus on symbolism too much. A couple of these are the cubes at the Masjid of Suleiman, established in peace in Jerusalem, and the Masjid of Ibrahim, loves the Creator and praising Him, in Mecca. One must understand some spiritual matters are beyond the symbols. Hence, symbol, not incarnation of God, symbol. Page 24. Light is that by which all things in this world are known. Light, sound, heat, and other radiation are linked as vibrations. All of these can be viewed or sensed in terms of light. For these reasons, light is a perfect symbol of knowledge. Without the variations, there'd be no tastes, no smells, no feelings, no sounds, and no sights. Of course, realize the divine qualities mirrored still leave us in those ways still unimaginably below our Creator, are less than. God's omnipresent, by the way. Like it says in Surah 112:4, none are comparable to Him in anything. We must first know, then love. First is the Creator, then us. Page 25. Having the kingdom of God within you is the goal of spiritual mastery mentioned by numerous prophets. A list on www.roadtoheaven.com listed 319 names of Allah in Al-Quran and traditions, maybe. There are names of God found in other languages that aren't found in Arabic that apply to the one. The meaning of having God's names on your hands is to be displaying these qualities with your means, be they spiritual, physical, emotional, mental, etc. Page 26. The symbolism of the fruit, the finale being, the testimony, faith, la ilaha illallah, no God but God. Dying in the body is not necessarily being separated. Page 28. The dervish rolled barefoot before 1925. Okay. Page 30. Okay. The saying from Kanya Sheikh Suleiman Loras means we all hold the potential to be perfected human beings. There has always been those who either were prophets and great teachers or manifested these teachings. As a Qutub pole, we are the navel of the earth, which supports the world around us spiritually, mentally, and emotionally. Page 33. Oneness with God is oneness of purpose. In the New Testament, Jesus and his companions were described as being one, and them, and God as one. Of course, human qualities are far below what could compare to the Creator. So, live up to your appearances, and I want to stop there, and let's go over. Ar-Rahman, beneficent, Ar-Rahim, the merciful, Al-Malik, the sovereign Lord, Al-Qudus, the holy, As-Salam, the source of peace, Al-Mu'min, the guardian of faith, Al-Muhaymin, the protector, Al-Aziz, the mighty, Al-Jabbar, the compeller, Al-Mutakabir, the majestic, Al-Khaliq, the creator, Al-Bari, the evolver, Al-Musawir, the fashioner, Al-Ghaffar, the forgiver, Al-Qahar, the subduer, Al-Wahhab, the bestower, Ar-Razaq, the provider, Al-Fatah, the opener, Al-Alim, the all-knowing, Al-Qabid, the constrictor, Al-Basit, the expander, Al-Qafid, the abaser, Al-Rafi'ah, the exalter, Al-Mu'izz, the honorer, Al-Mudhil, the dishonorer, As-Sami', the all-hearing, Al-Basir, the all-seeing, Al-Hakam, the judge, Al-Adil, the just, Al-Latif, the subtle, Al-Kabir, the aware, Al-Halim, the clement, Al-Azim, the magnificent, Al-Ghafur, the forgiving, Ashakur, the appreciative, Al-Ali, the most high, Al-Kabir, the great, Al-Hafiz, the preserver, Al-Muqit, the sustainer, Al-Hasib, the accounter, the reckoner, the calculator, Al-Jalil, the sublime, Al-Karim, the generous, Al-Raqib, the watchful, Al-Mujib, the responsive, Al-Wasi', the all-embracing, Al-Hakim, the wise, Al-Wadud, the loving, Al-Majid, the glorious, Al-Ba'ith, the resurrector, Ash-Shahid, the witness, Al-Haqq, the truth, Al-Wakil, the trustee, Al-Qawi, the strong, Al-Mateen, the firm, Al-Wali, the protecting friend, Al-Hamid, the praiseworthy, Al-Muhsi, the reckoner, the examiner, the tester. Al-Mubdi, the originator, Al-Mu'id, the restorer, Al-Muhyi, the giver of life, Al-Mumit, the creator of death, Al-Hayat, the alive, Al-Qayyum, the self-subsisting, Al-Wajid, the finder, Al-Majid, the noble, Al-Wahid, the unique, Al-Ahad, the one, As-Samad, the eternal, Al-Qadir, the able, Al-Muqtadir, the powerful, Al-Muqaddim, the expediter, Al-Muwaqqir, the delayer, Al-Awwal, the first, Al-Akhir, the last, Al-Zahir, the manifest, Al-Batin, the hidden, Al-Wali, the governor, Al-Mutali, the most exalted, Al-Barra, the source of all goodness, At-Tawwab, the acceptor of repentance, Al-Muntaqim, the avenger, Al-Afuwa, the pardoner, Ar-Ra'uf, the compassionate, Malik al-Mulk, the owner of sovereignty, Dhul Jalal wal Ikram, the Lord of majesty and bounty, Al-Muqsit, the equitable, Al-Jami', the gatherer, Al-Ghani, the self-sufficient, Al-Mughani, the enricher, Al-Mani', the preventer, Ad-Dara, the distresser, An-Nafi', the propitious, An-Nur, the light, Al-Hadi, the guide, Al-Badiya, the incomparable, Al-Baqi, the everlasting, Al-Warith, the supreme inheritor, Ar-Rashid, the guide to the right path, As-Sabur, the patient, Alaysallahu bekafin abada. Isn't Allah sufficient for his servant? Now in Sunni list, you have 4 different lists in Sunni tradition, as far as I know, that have 101 in total. And each one's different. So put them all together, you have 101 separate names. So 99 doesn't have only. 40 Hadith Qudsi, there's no only there. But the last shall be first. So what does the narration say? That's from the collection by Ahmed. Abdullah ibn Amr reported that whoever sends one blessing to the Prophet, Allah and his angels send 70 blessings to him. And perhaps in the future, I will say something in regard to the Shadaliya Dhikr, because I had the paper to do it. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Or as some New Agers say, may the blessings be, or, whatever. But remember, believe, practice, understand, learn, preach, experience, not necessarily in that order.